Well, what's up, people? How are we doing? This is Zach with KT Outdoors, and it is time for the end of the month garden update. That's coming up next. We're testing the limits of this microphone here because I'm walking straight into the wind. I've been trying to protect my body with it as best as I could, so this might be unusable footage, especially when the wind does that. Spring days, right? Gotta love them. I'm super excited about that greenhouse space. Like, it's just doing some cool things. Okay, that should get us out of the wind enough that we can talk. So we're going to head into the food forest here, and there are some good things happening and there's some bad things happening. I'm going to tell you why the bad things are happening as best as I can with this wind. Yeah, it is what it is. It's my own fault, and now I'm going to have to fix it. Okay, so right off the bat, Grapevine here on the outside is all starting to come together nicely. Every year in this space, so this is one of the is it good or is it bad things, right? Like, every year in this space, we have three things that go a tiny bit nuts. The first are these, which are Hollyhocks. They're all pink, so I don't get much variety, but they are beautiful and they thrive. Like, literally, when I say they thrive, guys, like, that's the edge of my driveway. This barely gets watered here, and it's growing, and that is full blown the driveway. Like, eventually I want to take out that section of fence and widen this gate for the driveway, but like, there's no water there. Nothing happens there, and that hollyhock looks exceptional. There's another one out front I'll show you. Well, maybe you can see it. It's kind of back over there behind those raspberries. Like, they just grow. So that's kind of a cool thing, but also a bit of a curse, because they're there and there and there and there and there, and some over there, and some growing in the middle of my honeyberry, and they're growing back there. Like, they're everywhere. So just be aware of those types of issues. The other thing that is doing something similar for similar reasons is this stuff right here, which is parsley. So I planted parsley, I don't even remember when, years ago now, and I let it go to seed every year, so then the parsley seeds drop. The beneficial pollinators love parsley flowers, so I let that go crazy, makes them happy, and now I have parsley growing up everywhere. That's supposed to be a bed of mint in that pot, and it's growing parsley and no mint. So yeah, anyway, sometimes things happen. The other thing that we're having issues with along those same lines, and I'm gonna drop in here close so that you can see it, and it might be the worst that it's ever been. Like, I probably should have taken my own suggestion and put the preen down in this raspberry bed, but I didn't. And now we're going to fight this right here, which, if you could smell this, I can smell it from here, and it's clear down there. That's dill. Oh, I love that smell. It's one of my favorite smells, which is part of the reason why I have this problem. You see them all in there, and over there, and over there, and there, and there, and over there. Like, it is literally everywhere. There's a reason they call dill weed. Oh, I do love that smell, though. There's a reason they call dill weed. So be careful, because when you put it in here and then you just let it go to seed and let it do its thing and let them fall all over the place, that's what they do. they fall all over the place. And then you have dill popping up in the middle of your raspberries and on the edge of your paths and everywhere. I like pickles. I like dill pickles. I like fresh dill in lots of things, but I don't like it taking over my garden. So just be aware. Be careful with letting things go to seed. Okay, so there's my little take on things that I have done wrong. But in general terms, you can see, like, things are going pretty good. We got some mustard greens planted down there. The raspberry bed is absolutely thriving. I need to get some sort of a cage system to hold those stalks upright the way that they need to be, and construct some sort of a path system to get into there. So that'll be all good. This year our black raspberries actually survived, and honestly they're in the process of creating more new plants. So I planted that black raspberry there. It kicked itself over and started this black raspberry here, which has started another black raspberry there, and maybe even one more. So there's a couple black raspberries now all growing here, and since they didn't get frozen like they did last year, we're actually going to get black raspberries this year. So I'm pretty stoked about that plan. There's the other hollyhock that's literally, it's growing on the side of a county road. Like, it's just out there. It doesn't get hardly watered. Like, it's just growing. Here's the other survivor. Artichokes absolutely look amazing. So hopefully they do well this year with such an early start, and we'll get some nice artichokes to harvest. Okay, and then looking back up towards the grapevine, we've got some hollyhocks, and then these pots here. You're going to notice this is kind of an insider trick that I have learned. We've got some sweet peas coming up in this pot here, but notice the placement of these pots. I'm going to try to back up into this wind, and hopefully that blocks it for the microphone some. So pots over there, pots right here. There's another pot behind me. Actually, let me back up here so you can see these two. Okay, there's these ones here too. Now notice where they are though, because this is intentional. They are right on the edge of the walkways. Now, why are they here? Well, the reason they're here, and actually those on the other side count for the same vibe too. The reason is because of this hose. And so what happens is I do a lot of hand watering because I'm a glutton for punishment and I like to hand water. These are my hose guides that keep my hoses from dragging across those plants. So if I'm dragging the hose up this direction and I'm not paying attention, no pots there, my hose gets dragged across that hollyhock, breaks off plants, ruins the garden look, whatever, right? But I put these pots along the edges, and then now when I drag the hose up there, it catches on the edge of that pot, protects the plant. If I bring the hose down here, I drag it up here, it catches on this nice smooth corner, drags around that pot. You don't have to buy those fancy little hose deals if you have the space to use a pot like this as a hose guide. Speaking of pots, absolute best way imaginable to grow mint is in a pot. That one is apple mint, and this one over here is spearmint. I absolutely just love growing mint this way. If you are new to gardening, man, huge advice: do not plant mint in the ground. I made that mistake when I was a brand new gardener, and it is just not a good plan. That stuff, oh man, that smells so good. That stuff just goes everywhere. But if you contain it in a nice big pot like this, that's just like, it's been sitting there for years, 5, 6, 7 years. I don't even know. I don't do anything to it. I maybe give it a little bit of fish fertilizer a couple times a summer, and that's it. And it just keeps sending up new mint, sending up new mint, sending up new mint. So put your mint in pots. Best advice ever. I don't know how well this is going to show, but one of the main potential benefits of the tree falling on the house earlier this year, if you haven't seen that video, windstorm damage, I'll put a link up there, but man, it is windy today. This beautiful lilac bush, I'm sure, is loving all of the extra sun and attention, and it is just loaded with blooms this year. Oh man, that smell reminds me of my grandma. Oh, I love lilacs. Anyway, it's a good thing. All right, there you go. We made the full circle of the property and checked all of the main growing spaces. So yeah, I love this time of year. It's honestly my favorite time of the year. The grass is really green and beautiful, and all the flowers are starting to bloom, and I need to get out into the desert because the hills are green, and I'm sure the wildflowers are blooming. Like, it's just a great time of year. It's not hotter than the Dickens yet, which happens around here. We get to July, it's hot, hundreds and up sometimes. So anyway, yeah, so what's coming next? We are right on the edge of being ready to plant our summer crops, right? So behind me you can see some corn growing up there. There's also a bunch of zucchinis and cucumbers and things like that. I've got some more seed trays. I need to start with some more flowers, particularly sunflowers. And there's a bunch of other flowers I haven't even started yet. I've just been too busy with other things. So I need to get those started as well, because we're on that edge now of like 2 weeks away from our last frost date. So some of these things could start going in. I don't have tomatoes in the hoop house down in the food forest yet, but I totally could. So I'll probably go put some of the Romas I started down in there and get that all going so that they're off to the races and doing what they need to do. Yeah, these chickens need to move, so that's definitely like happening probably like right now, maybe. I want to get them up there so they can get those weeds knocked down before they get too big for them to like them. And then, yeah, just growing. Like, we're harvesting. This is always an interesting time of year for me because we're harvesting already. The lettuce harvest is in full swing. Like, it'll be daily now because I don't like to do a whole bunch at once. It's easier for me, the way that I do things, to go out and harvest just a little bit, wash it up, sack it up, get it ready, have some available for people who might want to get some, and then just keep harvesting. Just make that part of the normal routine, because all spring they'll just keep growing until it starts to get too hot. And history has shown I can stretch that to like mid to late June, depending on how hot it gets early. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited. We've never been this early with the lettuce, so I'm super stoked to see how that goes this year. Should be kind of fun to play around with that. There's a lot of lettuce in the ground, some of which just went in, like literally yesterday. I put the last plugs of lettuce in the ground, and then I have one more batch right there. All of those soil blocks are a head lettuce. Well, actually, what the packet's right here. It's what is it? It's a Bib Lettuce, so it's like a butter head lettuce type thing. So those are all in those soil blocks back there. So that will be the last lettuce that goes in here this spring, and they're already starting to, they don't look too bad. They're starting to leaf out a little bit, so it'll be fun to drop those in. And then, yeah, and at that point it'll be harvest, weed, and grow, right? Like, that's kind of what's coming for a lot of us once you get those main summer plants, the tomatoes, the melons, the zucchinis, the cucumbers. Those things go into the ground. Then, at least here, the way that I do things, there's going to be this long bit of continuing to harvest the spring planted lettuce and spinach and those things for as long as I can. And then about the time they start to not be productive is when all of the tomatoes and, you know, the cucumbers and some of those other things will start to produce, and the flowers will start producing, so we'll begin making bouquets and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of where my head is headed right now, is get things in the ground and then just hit that maintenance cycle of keeping things going. And then we'll also be doing succession planting of things like that corn, right? Like, so there's what, half of 72 is 36, so there's 36 corn plants ish right there, and we'll continue to do that on 2-week intervals for the next like months, like a month and a half at least. as long as I feel like we can still have the 65 to 85 days that we need to get to an ear of corn, we'll keep planting. And so they'll go out a little bit at a time all throughout the summer in those growing spaces. And that's a lot of what will follow the lettuce and some of those things is we'll come right behind them with corn and other plants like that that can continue to grow in that space. In fact, I could put the corn in when it's small like that in the middle of the lettuces and still get one last harvest of lettuce depending on timing. So anyway, I'm rambling. It's time to call this a day. So thanks for watching. I hope that this microphone worked. We're going to find out. I've never tried it before in the wind like today, so we'll see if that was better than not using the microphone. And yeah, good times. So thanks for watching. Get outside because life's better when it's lived outdoors. We'll see you next time.